Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. So, a couple follow-up items. First of all, my neighbor invited me over for a barbecue yesterday evening, and we ate. And then afterwards, we went out onto the back deck. And remember that dead tree I was telling you guys about that I could see from my house with the brown leaves kind of creeping up over the canopy? And I thought that was the tree that probably got struck by lightning. Well, it was in fact the tree that was struck by lightning, because we looked at that tree from his back deck and it literally looked like it exploded from the inside out. Now this tree was huge. It was about 125, 150 foot oak tree towering up over the canopy, and the lightning got it. So there have been severe lightning storms here in north central Arkansas. It almost just doesn't stop. You just see the lightning just flashing over and over again. And I'm keeping a close eye on my 100-foot trees that are kind of close to the house. I may at some point have to fell at least 2 trees that are somewhat close to the house. They're not leaning, but you just never know with these high winds and the weather modification that is going on right now. They could pull anything, to destroy homesteaders, to get people out of areas that they don't want them in. And so it's best to be prepared and to try to, make sure that you've managed the risk appropriately. Anyway, I started a new series called Silo, and it is really good. But before we get into that, I want to do a quick follow-up on yesterday's show about the eagle, the snake, and the donkey. Many of you noticed that the King James Version doesn't use the word eagle in Revelation. It uses the word angel. And I want to explain this to you and why I went with the eagle translation, because I believe it is more accurate. And I'm going to show you a blog that actually explains it very, very well. Here's the question. 2 Bible versions, KJV and ESV. The KJV says angels. The ESV says eagles. Now this is in Revelation 8. And here is what I found. Deciding between the wording of different ancient manuscript is the case here. In Revelation 8:13, some manuscripts of the Greek New Testament have the word atos, eagle, while others use the word angelos. So we have 2 ancient manuscripts that say different things for that particular passage. Let me keep reading here. If you were a Greek New Testament scholar and Bible translator, one of the guidelines you would use to help determine the accuracy would be the age of the manuscript. Typically, the closer a manuscript is in the time to the original, the more likely it is accurately will reflect the original. And that makes absolute perfect sense. The further you get away from someone telling a story, for instance, let's say your grandmother tells you a story that's been handed down generations. That story is not going to be as accurate as the first time that the story was told, right? Let's keep reading here. The oldest Greek manuscript available to the translators of the King James Bible dated from about 900 AD. One such manuscript is called the Codex Parthenianus, which includes the book of Revelation and uses the word angelos instead of atos. Since the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls in 1947, Bible translators now have Greek New Testament manuscripts dating much closer to the original writings of the apostles. Some of these have become the standards of accuracy by which later manuscripts are judged. These older manuscripts use the word atos, or eagle. So why did later manuscripts change from eagle to angel? No one knows for certain, But Bible translator Bruce Metzger suggests that some scribes who were making fresh copies of Revelation from older manuscripts thought they were making a needed correction. So now you know the truth, and this is why I don't go with the King James Version above all translations belief system. You have to investigate each passage yourself, pray to God, and ask for the Holy Spirit to guide you in what the true translation of the word is. It's never usually all in one version. And this is one perfectly rational case of this being the case. So now you see that the modern authority on theology has failed us once again, even when faced with the new directive from God to update the Bible to its correct form based on these much older manuscripts. They still refuse to do it. But notice how God has kept his promise that he would preserve his word. It's just that people, instead of having faith in God that he would preserve his word, they go with the translations of man, even when they're given the truth about a passage. Now, there was also more manuscripts that were found with the Dead Sea Scrolls that should have prompted historians to update the Bible, but they never did. Kind of like the discovery of the Book of Enoch with the Dead Sea Scrolls. Very, very old copies of the Old Testament. And alongside the Book of Enoch, alongside other Apocrypha, you would think that the theologians would have come together and said, you know what, maybe we got it wrong, let's update the Bible. But they failed. Now, outside of the things that I just mentioned, there weren't a lot of changes to the Bible. In other words, even though we're pointing out the gross errors that needed to be fixed, the majority of the rest of the Bible was preserved perfectly in the Bible that you carry in your hand right now. But the fact that they continue to leave out Apocrypha that should clearly be put back in the Bible because they were removed by men, remember? Jesus' version of the Bible included Enoch. They admit that they removed it many hundreds of years after Jesus walked the earth. And they removed it for their own reasons, for reasons they thought it should be removed, instead of having faith. Right? So, that is what's going on. Now, another follow-up that I forgot to mention on yesterday's show, we were talking about the snake, the donkey, and the eagle. And what I forgot to mention, and this is very, very important, is that the hiss of a snake, because remember, snakes lost their ability to speak. The hiss of the snake is actually the sound of white noise. And it's described that way scientifically, white noise. Now think about the ramifications of that and the meaning of that, right? We have white noise on a television set. We have white noise, the movie. Crazy, right? Good morning, everybody. Now, let's get into this new Silo series. I figured we were almost at the end of Blacklist, the Blacklist TV series that we were decoding. Few more episodes to go on that, and it was really starting to wind down. There was really not a lot of symbolism in the final season. And so I've decided to get involved into a new TV series. And this new series is unbelievable. Silo takes place in a dystopian future in which the entire world of, I think it was 10,000 peoples with 144 levels. That's 12 times 12, like the chosen ones. 144,000, the 12 tribes of Israel. They all live in a silo. The rest of humanity. The remnant. So you see, already there are biblical themes running through this. And it didn't take me long to realize that the silo is the metaphor for a 15-minute city. Now, the programming is glaring, and I'll demonstrate all of that to you as we decode the very first episode of Silo. Every single episode is packed with symbolism. So we're going to do the first episode today, then we're going to do the next episode tomorrow. Now, the plot centers around the sheriff and his wife. And or at least the first episode's plot does. And in this episode, they are awarded permission to try to conceive a child. You see, because in the future, and in this scenario, you have to win a lottery to have permission to conceive a child. And it's weird. It's like a totalitarian environment where the inhabitants also suspect that their rooms are being bugged or listened to. And so when they want privacy, they turn the water on so they can't be heard speaking about things that they should not be speaking about. Now, this is actually a really well-made series, and it did hold my attention. And so I definitely recommend this so you can see the symbolism, you can see the programming, you can see the continuity between what we've been talking about and decoding, and you'll see it manifesting in the series, which will further strengthen your understanding of the continuity between these TV series and how they are programming the rest of humanity to accept their agenda through entertainment media. Now, every year in the silo, they celebrate what they call Freedom Day. Even though life in the silo is about as far away from freedom as you can imagine. But they make the case and they make the argument that, hey, you've got to give up some of your freedoms for safety and security. Well, here is the Freedom Day celebration. I want you to watch and listen. This is just bizarre.
6 minutes and 6 seconds past 6 o'clock. That is the moment we regained our freedom. On this day, 140 years ago.
There you heard it. 666. They're literally in our face with it. So we have the 144 floors. We have 666 already. This is the book of Revelation in a TV series playing out. Now, I'm going to check in with you, and then I'm going to tell you about the DNA programming in this series, which is also very glaring. Let me go into the chat here. Everything good? Sounds good? No buffering? Let's check in with you guys and see, make sure everything's good. Yes, Marcy, DNA stairs. Yes, like the Freedom Cities. Freedom Cities are just the right version of the right-left paradigm. It's just like when Trump said he was going to do away with national health care, right? But then all he did was make his version of it. It's just like his version of the vaccine that a lot of people have faith in because he made it, right? It's all just the right-left paradigm is what it is. You have to step outside of it. All right, let's keep going now. I told you this series was packed. I couldn't even believe it. So there's lots of DNA programming. And the silo is actually in the shape of this spiral staircase descending down into the earth. And so there's a lot of as above, so below programming. Let's take a look. There's your DNA spiral staircase. They show the apple falling from the tree, symbolism. That's the fall of man in the garden. They also showed this as a spine, like your spinal cord. So we have lots of garden symbolism, right? The Garden of Eden. So, as we've learned, spirals are portals, aren't they? So this spiral staircase not only doubles as a DNA strand, but also a portal through which the change in DNA will travel.
You are now free to make a baby.
So, the sheriff and his wife are awarded the chance to get pregnant. And the first step when a couple is awarded the chance to become pregnant is that they remove the birth control device. This is the device. A copper pill.
And there it is. You're no longer under birth control.
And I'm shocked they just didn't come right out with a snake wrapped around a pole as the birth control device. But there it is right there. Now, this is where things get really bizarre because the wife starts getting suspicious as to why they're not able to conceive, because they go months and months. They're given a whole year to try to have a baby, and they still can't have a baby. And then a few people in the silo approach the wife and they tell her, hey, maybe the reason why you're not able to have a baby is because the powers that be don't want people like her to conceive. People who question the true purpose and intention of the silo. Watch. Now, as she's questioning her surroundings, she's shown this computer file, a secret computer file that was found. And this is the first image that anyone has seen of the true nature of the outside world. That it is not the barren landscape that they're shown through their portals and windows and screens. That it's actually a lush, green forest or landscape. And the first word or the first sound that she hears is the tweeting of birds.
They were never going to let us have children of the pact. They want docile, obedient people. I'm not the type of person they want having kids.
Who's they?
The enforcers. He didn't take out my birth control.
How do you know?
So there was the bird tweeting, the syrinx, the bird vocal box, already the central theme of this series. Subjects that we've talked about at length, right? So the sheriff and his wife then reach the end of their permitted time to conceive, and they still have no child. And so the wife cuts the inside of her, and she finds the birth control device, the very one that she was told was removed. They never removed it. Watch.
Because I just did.
How do you know that?
He didn't take out my birth control.
How do you know that?
Because I just did.
Now, notice the knife is sitting next to the apple. We know that the apples represent fertility. Apples are fruit. They represent the offspring of the tree, the child of the tree. And so the fact that the apple is sitting right next to a knife can only mean one thing, right? And that's child sacrifice.
They want to keep you in here, so they're lying to you. It's green out there. There's green trees, there's blue skies. None of this is real. Do you see? There's things flying in the air. Is no one listening to me? They're keeping us here in this display. Maybe that's not what it is.
Why would they do that?
To keep us in here. That's not what it is.
Why would they do that?
Is no one listening to me? They're keeping us here in this display. Maybe that's not what it is.
Why would they do that?
To keep us in here. What if it's just rocks and bushes?
I know what I'm seeing.
Not if it's just what the computer wants you to see.
So, the people inside the silo all they can see of the outside world is through these weird screens. And the screens don't even look real. They like glitch out and stuff. And it's basically a deep fake of the truth of what it looks like outside. And all of this is metaphor, isn't it? The controllers are pushing a deep fake version of the truth about our world. They want us all to believe that we are on the verge of the collapse. Environmental collapse. And they are the very ones who should be to blame if that were even the case. They're the ones making the inventing the things that they're saying are causing the collapse. So right there on its face, it's hogwash. But they want you to believe that it's your habits that are causing it. Even though they were the ones that made plastic bottles. They were the ones who drilled oil. See the problem here? So the people in the silo look outside and all they see are deep fakes of the truth of the environment that they live in. And the fear of that makes most people stay in the silo.
I'm seeing.
Not if it's just what the computer wants you to see.
If it's so wonderful outside, why would they not want us to go out?
I don't know.
Notice how asleep the sheriff is. He's completely clueless as to the existence of the evil that runs the silo. And now they're keeping everyone in the dark. And that's just exactly like humanity is right now. They're completely clueless to the evil all around them and the agenda to keep them asleep, to tell them lies that are not true, to control their behavior. And so therefore, people walk into every single trap that the devil sets. Now, the programming that the people are under is much like the programming they're under now. The hive mind is capable of very dark and evil things if they're convinced that they're under threat or threatened. Remember the attorney who says that they have the right to pin you down and shove a needle in your arm during the pandemic? We were on the verge of that, weren't we? They almost pulled it off. They demonized and criminalized anyone who refused the needle. They went as far as to say that we were responsible for other people's deaths and we could be convicted of murder. Remember those times that we went through? Never, ever forget. It reminds me of the time right after 9/11, where if you weren't on board with getting revenge, you were called basically, they basically blamed you. You are now responsible for the murder, for the death of the people on 9/11 because you're not on board with fixing it. Remember that time we went through? Now, I wasn't part of that group because I was still asleep after 9/11. So I was one of the people who wanted to go fight and get revenge, right? But I remember that time when everybody hated anybody who wasn't on board with getting revenge. Now we see the same theme in Silo. Humanity is thoroughly brainwashed. Most people just fall in line. They believe the lie, hook, line, and sinker. And the herd quickly turns against any dissident, anyone who doesn't believe what they're being told. It's accepted. Even if it's someone you love, they still just go along with crucifying whoever steps out of line. They give them over to the authorities. And this is exactly what the sheriff does. Even though he loves his wife, as soon as she asks to go outside, he turns on her. And they put her out the airlock. Now, there's a law in the silo. And it's the only law, actually. The law is that you can never, ever ask to go outside. Because if you do, you can't take those words back. And they force you outside. And then it's like a ritual. Everyone watches as the person walks outside. They're watching it through the deep fake screen as the person walks outside in a spacesuit. And then they watch the person die. Now, what is this all metaphor for? Well, it's metaphor for the censorship we're dealing with. You're never allowed to speak against the machine. Because if you do, what do? They force you outside. In other words, they quiet or silence your voice. They make you irrelevant. They shush you so that nobody hears your views. Nobody hears your ideas. Why? Because your ideas could be contagious and it could ruin the machine. So they put you all the way down to the bottom. And you might have a few people listening to you like we do on this channel, but you'll never ever reach the mainstream with your views. And that's what they've done to this channel. The only people that are allowed to break through and become mainstream are the social media sensations or those who serve the agenda. The big nothing content, right? That's what they want. They want your mind filled with empty stuff, not game-changing stuff. So many parallels, aren't there? Now watch as the sheriff reads his wife, his own wife, her last rites and her sentence to banishment.
When it will be safe to go outside. We only know that day is not today.
She goes outside and everyone's watching through the deep fake screen. But what she's seeing is a lush trees with grass and birds flying and wildlife. But all they see is what looks like the surface of Mars. And then they think they see her collapsing and dying. Now, this was only the first episode, you guys. I'm going to decode this whole series, and I'll be reporting back. I already have a show scheduled for tomorrow because I already got through the second episode, and there's lots to see. But on its face, the silo is really shaping up to be the plan, the floor plan, or whatever you want to call it, of a 15-minute city. It's got all the hallmarks of it. A self-contained city, where you're not allowed to go in or come out, order and safety at the expense of freedom. And I believe that's what we're looking at here with this series. Now, as you'll see tomorrow, when they go outside, everyone dies. But I believe it's probably some kind of sabotage. I think what we're going to find is they put something in their spacesuit or they inject them with something just before, they go outside, so that they will die anyways, right? Because they don't want everyone escaping the silo and out into the lush green forest. This is actually Apple TV is where the series is airing. It's not on Netflix. And so, yeah, I believe that that's what we're going to find later, because at one point they put the sheriff out in the next episode. He's banished. And he starts dying, and then he takes off his helmet, and no one had ever done that before. But still, that doesn't that doesn't help him. He still dies. So they must have poisoned them before they went outside. But yeah, it is a crazy series. And again, it's a good series to watch so that you can understand the program, because this is all about 15-minute cities. It's all about climate guilting. Probably a new phrase that we're going to coin. Climate guilting, climate shaming, right? They're shaming anyone who doesn't agree with their climate science. And so basically the story is stay in the silo. Why do we even want to go outside to ruin? Even if it was green and lush, we should just stay in here. It's all self-contained. We have everything we need. Why go outside? So that is the programming, which is directly opposed to what God's directive was in the garden, to go be fruitful, fill the earth, spread out. The controllers are doing the exact opposite. Do we really think that God didn't make a planet that could sustain us? Obviously he did, even in this fallen state, even in this fallen realm, the planet will sustain us. But the enemy tells us no. And in fact, the enemy is taking it a step further. They're the ones developing the technologies to ruin the planet faster than, or trying to ruin the planet, or telling us they can. I don't believe it's even possible. I believe that God has put safety measures in place, but the Bible does say that God will ruin or get back at those who do ruin the earth. It says that in the Bible. So they are doing some ruining, but the catastrophic ruining that they're talking about, I don't believe is going to happen. Other than what we're told in Revelation, where in the last days, a third of the earth will be burned and things like that, and a third of the oceans will be ruined. But I don't know if that's going to be something that man does. I believe I think it says wormwood does it. I need to go back to Revelation and brush up on that. Correct me if I'm wrong. But, yeah. So, crazy times, right, you guys? Okay, let's go into the chat here. What are you guys up to? Yes, I will destroy them that destroy the earth. Marcy, good job. All right. Do you guys have any questions? It is time to destroy those who destroy the earth. Susan, thanks. Hello, Danae. I'm just me, you just be you. Smile on sunflower. Marcy, footsteps for Jesus Bride. Thanks, London. It does say wormwood. All right. Do I do collaboration? No, I don't really do much of those anymore, unfortunately. We've tried over the years, but it always ends up usually ending up negative. And I'm not trying to be negative, but for those that follow the channel, you've seen us, what we've gone through with trying to do collaborations. Dale asked, do you have PayPal? Yes, I have links to my PayPal and the fundraiser in the pin in the description. Appreciate any support that you guys send in. I don't often bring it up just because I don't want to like burden you guys with that. I just figure if the links are there, and for those that want to support the channel, they can, but I'm not going to beg you guys for money. Okay. It's not what we're here to do. It's only for those who are able. And I appreciate all of you who currently support the channel. Have you heard of Brother Gregory with his holy church? No, I have not heard of him before. Casey, I found you thanks to your collab with Days and KJ back when. Yeah, that's true. The collaboration, and a lot of channels do a lot of collaborations because that helps grow your channel, right? but I've found that that a lot more negative usually comes out of it, unless I've been following a channel for a long time and I know what they're about, like KJ and Days of Noah. That was a good collaboration. And also Now You See TV, good guys over there. But I don't really do just random collaborations. So, and I apologize for that. It's just the way it is. All right. All right. So thumbs up this video if you can. That helps, the algorithms see that, and they will share the video and get it out to more people. They'll send out notifications. That's how we should grow this channel, I think. Get it out to as many people as possible. I don't think anybody would disagree with a decode like the one that we presented today, and the metaphors that are in the book of Revelation, Genesis, and the rest of the Bible. I love each and every one of you, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care, everybody.